You able to stand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Your next item of business is approving the agenda. Any comments or concerns on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll say they were approved. Parents of interested citizens, that's item C. Do you have any interested citizens wish to appear?
We do not.
We do not have any interested citizens. Moving on to item D. The last meeting was on September the 11th, 2025. Any comments or thoughts on the minutes? Or we were ready to approve them. Does that need a motion to do that?
Yes,
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes of September 11th, 2025.
I'll second. Okay, and we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nothing heard. Item E is our public hearing. That's where this script comes in. The Planning Commission will now conduct a public hearing to adopt an updated transportation system plan as a supporting document to the Dayton Comprehensive Plan and related amendments to Title VII of the Dayton Municipal Code. These proposed changes are included as exhibits A through D of the staff report dated November 13th, 2025. Which the Planning Commission received as part of tonight's agenda packet. For reference, the city case file number is LA 2025-02. I will now open the public hearing at 6:32 p.m. Approval criteria for legislative decision-making are found in section 7.3.112 of the Dayton Land Use and Development Code. These criteria are also cited in the staff report addressed to the Planning Commission. The hearing will be conducted pursuant to the Planning Commission's adopted rules of procedure. The following procedure will be followed for receiving presentations and oral testimony. Item 1 is a presentation of the staff report and other applicable reports shall be given. That would happen now, is that correct?
That's correct. Thank
Okay,
you.
very good.
Thank you, Acting Chair. So yes, as you said, we're here to begin the adoption process to incorporate the updated transportation systems plan and related implementing development code amendments into the comprehensive plan and the development code. We worked with two key consultants throughout this process. DKS Consulting, who Carl Springer from DKS is here tonight with a short presentation as well. And MIG Consulting, who prepared the content in Exhibit A, which is implementing ordinances memo. So they, as part of their scope of work, drafted findings to address the approval criteria. They included in that memo are some recommended policy updates to the text of Chapter 10 of the comprehensive plan, which is where the transportation policies, the comprehensive plan are located, and the related development code updates to implement some of the decisions that were made as part of the TSP update process. So those are in Exhibit A. The text of the transportation system plan itself is in Exhibit B. Appendix A in Exhibit C are supporting technical documents related to the transportation systems plan that document the process and some of the technical decisions that were made going into the actual document. Exhibit D contains a strikeout version of chapter 10 of the comprehensive plan that implements the policy recommendations that are in the implementing ordinances menu just to provide it in that format. So you see how that chapter of the comprehensive plan will look when updated. The most relevant information for tonight's procedure is this implementing ordinances memo in Exhibit A. The updated goals and objectives that are incorporated in chapter 10 begin on page 2 of that memo. There are some Public Works design standards recommendations that are in here. Those aren't the subject of this hearing tonight, so that will be adopted as part of a separate process. The summary of the development code updates begin on page 11 of the packet, page 7 of the memo, and table 1. The main objectives that we directed them to address were criteria for when traffic impact analysis was required as part of new development, which were provisions that we didn't have in the code before. And updates to connectivity standards and block standards that will mainly come into effect with the development of the UGB swamp area to make sure that we have a well-connected, gridded, logical network of streets to serve the new homes there. And then MIG went through and updated various other sections that they felt were needed to be addressed as part of this project, mainly regarding parking, some new standards for on-site pedestrian circulation, standards to ensure good pedestrian access and connectivity between commercial developments and abutting right-of-way, and some notification requirements for land use approvals to make sure affected agencies are notified and notified of various land use decisions. And then the actual text of the amendments begin on page 14 of the packet. And they're provided in the typical strikeout underline format that you usually see as part of our development code updates. And with that, I will turn it over to Carl Springer, our consultant who we worked with, who did really most of the heavy lifting for this project, most of the technical from the project. So he will take you through what we did and what's included in the plan.
Good evening, I'm Carl Springer with DKS Associates. I was the project manager for this effort, and frankly, I enjoyed it. You were a great community to work with, and I gotta say, in doing transportation system plans all over Oregon, it's important that communities engage with us because we're just consultants. You know, it's important for us to hear what's important to the community and to tailor your plan to fit as best we can what you're striving to do. So that's what we hope the TSP represents. I think Kurt did a good job of highlighting the key issues that we're gonna have to deal with, but I've got a presentation. I'm pretty sure you've all seen this presentation before, a few weeks ago maybe, so I'll go a little bit light if that's okay. If you have questions, feel free to stop me. We can pause on that, but let's dive into it. So the funding piece, is a grant from the Transportation Growth Management Program that paid our bills and MIG's bills, which is nice to have. You know, these are expensive efforts. It took, I think, 18 months to complete this. So that was a good use of funds there, and we developed a plan that met their criteria. So by now, I'm hoping you know what a transportation system plan is. You have a good sense for that? There's a few key things in it. One is meshing it with One is meshing it with the comprehensive plan, making sure the goals and policies align with each other. That's one big piece. Another big piece is coming up with a project list that the community can support that makes sense to advance either through development or through some other grant funding possibilities. And then we also added, as Kurt mentioned, a couple of tools that you didn't have before. So when development comes, there'll be guidelines for developers to use to actually design their facilities in a more intelligent way that fits well with the community. So it's a big document. There's lots of technical stuff in there. But in the end, I think those are some of the big pieces that are going to come out of it for cities. Benefit. So one of the key things in your action and then the city council's action to actually adopt this is to have an adopted TSP with these projects that makes you in a much better position to compete for grant funding. And that's an essential, that's going to be an essential element if you, for many of these projects, if you want to advance them and actually get them planned, designed and built. Grant funding is going to be your mechanism to do that. As we noted in our work, your funding is not going to support all the desires of the community. We've got a long list of projects in there. And the current funding that the city is collecting on a regular basis can't make that happen without grant funding to supplement that. It's basically the position we're in. All right, got some nice photos of the town in the TSP. Let's get going. So the TSP development process, it's a long-term plan. We usually aim for 20 years of growth, and we work with other, growth based on what your comprehensive plan provides, and most of that growth is in the swamp areas you're aware of. But it also accounts for extra traffic that's happening from a growth around the region. So it's not just growth within the city, because other people use your streets, right? So our forecast and analysis include both of those things. Let's go to the next one. So we had two primary ways to coordinate on this effort. One was an ongoing project management team. So that was represented by Kurt and city staff, that we meet regularly and make key decisions. But the other piece was the project advisory committee that met on, I think, 4 separate occasions to kind of and checkpoints as we went through the process that made sure we were on track and raised important questions and kept us going. And we had 2 public events where we've reached out to the community and got good feedback from them about what's important to the community. Because again, you know, as consultants that come to town for a little bit, we see it, we have a glimpse of what's going on here, but the people who live here really understand what's important and where the weak points are in the system and what's important to address as we go forward. So that's captured in that slide. Schedule, we're toward the end. We're going to run a little bit longer than we expected. We hope to get finished this year, but we're going to slide just a little bit into next year before this is all over. I think it's ending in January, if I remember right, according to the current schedule. I think the second reading.
The second reading of the ordinance.
Yeah.
We'll
So
slide
we're
it up.
close. We're close. We almost made it. It'll be a little bit longer than that. Okay, next slide. So if you look at the document, I like to tell the story in maps as best I can. So one of the maps in there will tell you what the challenges are in the system today, and this is the first one that's captured in chapters 4 and 5. Mainly, it boils down to safety and connectivity for pedestrian and bike trip users. Those are the big challenges you have here. It's less about congestion, and it's more about safety and ease of travel for walking and biking, basically. So those are highlighted on those maps, and we designed the projects that are represented in the plan to address those needs. Next slide. So the standards that Kurt mentioned in passing, so there's from a traffic engineering point of view, there's a metric that says how much congestion is too much. And so when you come in and do a development review, the traffic engineer is going to do a study and say, this is where your congestion is now. And when the development happens, it's going to go to here. And so we wanted to make sure there's some kind of metric that says, is that too much? And if it is too much, then there's some action that needs to be taken to try to address that as a part of the development process. That gives the city a position to actually negotiate with a developer and make those two things agree. That's why that's important, frankly. The other thing that Kurt mentioned was the spacing and block length kind of thing. Again, that's to kind of move the development pattern into kind of a grid form, as opposed to some other thing they might want to do for land efficiency or low cost. It's important to have that connectivity for all travel modes. And that's emphasized in the plan as well. Been talking a lot for a little bit. Can I pause? You guys have any questions? All right, let's keep rolling. All right, so this next map is the proposed projects broken into 3 different groups. Roadway projects, a lot of safety projects, and then I think most of our focus was on what we call multimodal projects, but it's basically walking, biking, and transit access kind of projects. That's what multimodal are. So some of that was around access routes to the school sites. There's kind of irregular connections about bikeways to get there, so that's addressed specifically. That came up, we had meetings at the school to talk about this stuff. We had to bribe them a little bit, we had to hand them out candy and get them to answer our questions, but we wanted to hear from the people who actually use those streets every day, what's working and what's not working, and so we've included that in the plan. The safety locations are more about historical safety problems where you've had crashes or you've had concerns about right of way, and those are noted on the map. I won't go to them in detail. We can if we need to. The funding, this is something that council eventually will need to address. Maybe in the next meeting, we'll talk about this a bit more, but the current funding, as you can see there, available within the life of this plan for capital projects like we're envisioning in this plan is $4 million. So to you and me, $4 million sounds like a lot, but from a TSP point of view, we're comparing that to our high priority projects, which is 24 million. So if you really wanted to do those projects, you need $20 more million than you currently collect. So there's several different ways mentioned in the plan how to go about that, and so that's a decision that the council will have to consider if that's something they want to pursue or not. So that will come up, but there's no action as a part of this TSP approval that would trigger that. This is just informational for them to consider as we go forward. Does that make sense? All right, next slide. Oh, we're on the next slide. Oh,
Yeah, you wanna go back?
I don't know, where are we? Okay. Let's see, we did the projects, we did the finance. Okay, let's keep going. And implementation, I think Kurt talked about, go back one. It was a six, yeah, wait.
There you go.
There it is. All right, now I'm feeling better. All right, so those are the 3 key pieces, the TSP adoption, the updates to the comp plan and the transportation element there, and then the land use code updates. Those are all 3 of those things need to occur for this to have weight. So ultimately, TSPs give you good policies and project lists, but the key piece is to get it into the development code, because that's where the actual decisions are made about what the city's going to look like as it builds out. It's in the development code. Right. Probably telling you things you already know, right? Probably know all that part,
We'd
right?
like to hear you.
What's that?
We'd like to hear you sing.
All right. Okay, let's see, goals and policies, yeah, we talked about that, that's in chapter 3. Let's go on to the next slide. So, the updates to the code, Kurt kind of rolled through these, but so one of the things the MIG was charged with doing is making sure that your code aligns with the latest state policies and regulations for what a transportation plan should look like. So that you can say we comply with that, basically. So that's what a lot of those recommendations had to do with. All right.
Excuse me, have you gotten feedback that they do comply?
From DLCD,
Right.
I don't think we've heard specifically from them.
Okay.
I can,
Maybe you could say.
I can tell you from my, because I work
Well,
with MIG for,
technically, we had the representative on the advisory.
You should know.
I work with MIG for a long time, they know exactly what's required, so if it's
Their
in there,
filings addressing the way ours.
yeah. So if it's in there and it's adopted by the city, it should be in a good place. Right, updates to development code. Talked about traffic impact analysis, on-site circulation, street design. Trying to stop improvements, all those things are important elements. Let's go on. Further work, the pieces that are yet to be decided, so. A lot of activity and discussion about Ferry Street, there's lots of opportunity, lots of interest in part of the community about doing something. In Ferry Street, and the TSP illustrates a few different options and concepts of what that could be. But it's not making that decision for the community, it's saying that there's work yet to be done. There's a lot more conversation to be had with the public and with the property owners in particular. And to lay out concepts that can be acceptable to ODOT in making any changes on Ferry Street. So. What do you think about that? Concerns, thoughts? The emphasis there was to, for one thing, in this section of interesting thing about Ferry Street is it's very different right here compared to 5 blocks that way and 5 blocks that way. So you have to figure out how to design it to fit the available space in those blocks. That's the trick. There's not a one size fits all kind of solution. It's a very different kind of situation as you go further away from the immediate downtown. But it's still, we want comfortable, convenient access for walking and biking. The city has very little designated bike facilities anywhere in the city. So if there's anywhere it would likely be, would be on Ferry Street, because that's where the highest volumes are in the city. So there's lots of opportunity there, but decisions have not yet to be made about what that's gonna look like. All right.
Well, just speaking from personal experience, I've biked on Ferry Street a bit,
Okay,
and I don't think ever felt unsafe. Maybe once when there was a police pursuit that time. I did go up on the sidewalk that time. But under normal circumstances, the traffic was never, ever. Even during when they were letting school out.
okay,
They did. I mean, bike lanes would be nice. I'm
right.
not gonna
That's
argue against them.
really all we're recommending at this
Yeah,
point. Yeah.
I mean, but I don't even think they're really necessary. I don't know if they're high priority or not.
Okay.
But that's just my personal opinion.
All right. Yeah, part of the thinking is thinking about the range of riders, right? You've got the adults like yourself that are comfortable in all kinds of environments, and you've got the younger kids who may not be as comfortable. So it's a matter of kind of serving all the different needs.
Fair enough.
That's a discussion to be had. That's the point, is there's further discussion to be had about what's the right fit. Let's see, listed just for information purposes, the options to close the funding gap. So there are things called, you're familiar with system development charges, yes? So one mechanism to do that is to add some projects to the system development card project list. Increase the fee, collect more money, lose that more money to build some projects that are important. That's one mechanism. And then the other is obviously grants. And then there's a last one. I don't know if you've heard of street utility fees, but there is such a thing called street utility fees out there in Oregon. It's a very popular method for financing transportation projects. It's something we can provide more information about. But again, that's to be decided, to be considered later on after this process is over.
There's a lot in here about Ferry Street. And ODOT. Is there, and I likely missed it, but is there anything specific to the ongoing conversation around working with ODOT, with the state to gain ownership of Ferry? And what that might look like?
In transfer ownership.
Mm.
I think
Or is it just focused on working with them to? Work
yeah, so far, well, yeah, we didn't spend a lot of energy on the transfer of ownership. I think I mean, as you move forward on the design process, that conversation can continue, but I think it's important to. I mean,
I've only asked,
I don't wanna
it came
speak,
up during one of the
So,
work sessions.
yeah,
that was
we
the-
had-
on top.
Yeah, we had that discussion at. It was either the first or second. Advisory committee meeting. And I think we were going to, there was. At least some hope. That all this could be accomplished. That the city could accomplish what they want to accomplish
Without-
on Ferry Street and get a desirable outcome.
Without
With-
taking
without-
ownership.
Without
Right.
transferring ownership.
Right.
So that didn't seem to be a major barrier to improving Ferry Street.
Yeah,
And I think there was not just a transportation component, but a design component and this aesthetic component to Ferry Street. People just wanted it to be.
Mhm.
Just having a more positive, welcoming look and feel and have a consistent, aesthetic theme
Mhm.
down the street
Mhm.
that reflected Dayton as well. And that makes the whole environment more attractive for pedestrian activity and biking and all those other things that we're trying to encourage, so.
right,
And in my professional life, I work on projects that are funded by STIP, but I actually don't know how you get on the list. Is that something that's done at the city level, that you talk to elected officials to try to get up to?
STIP is statewide transportation improvement plan.
Mhm.
Our version is the capital improvement plan. And there's several sections to that.
Mhm.
There's transportation, there's parks, sewer, water. All those things, and then there's. A list of projects, and then the idea is you figure out how much money you need, and then you. Work out a formula
Yeah,
for charging.
But OTC adopts the STIP projects, don't they?
yeah, for you, yeah.
Statewide for.
Yeah.
We're talking about the local
For local,
projects.
but you were.
What we had-
statewide.
What,
Yeah.
She was
what
talking-
we have control over at Dayton,
Uh-huh.
what Dayton has control over is the local.
Okay.
CIP cap.
Right,
okay,
I mean, the city can always compete and try to get a project on the STIP, but it's a very.
I've only seen it
project.
with county, I've not worked on projects where counties get STIP funding, and they're working with ODOT. To do that, but I was, because of Ferry Street being a state highway, I was just
Right,
wondering, I know they're on the slate for. 2,400 to do our curb ramps and ADA access, but it's a ways out. So, I'm just curious. I think it's actually like 2032 or something, but.
okay. I think we're about there. Yeah, so the next item, second hearing, doesn't look right, I don't know, first hearing, oh well. Anyway,
This is the first hearing. Second hearing is with first citizens.
somebody fix that, right, you're right, I'll go for that. Okay, so. Yeah, so I think the action before you is to recommend to the council for adoption. And then they take the action to adopt or not, and when the second reading happens in January. That's my piece. Any other questions, anybody, has anybody ever heard of a street utility fee? I had not. I think they're in like 30 or 40 Oregon cities use it. It's an ongoing fee that all residents and businesses pay. It's the difference between that and a SDC. SDC is a one-time fee that's collected when development happens. Utility fees are ongoing, so they can actually sustain programs instead of just a one-time thing, but again,
How's that different from a tax?
well, it's not a tax because it's proportional to how much you use it.
The utility fee is?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's based on like your frontage or something?
There's a metric there to estimate how much a given land use type would use the transportation facility.
Gotcha,
So it's all proportional, basically.
gotcha. I see.
That's what's unique about it is it's ongoing. I think it's one of the rare cases where it's an ongoing fee program. So it gives the city much more opportunity to do things they want to do that they couldn't otherwise do. Anyway, I don't want to try to sell that. I did a research study on that at one point. And it's unique that Oregon, I think, is the only state that does them.
Again, I say this is the fourth state I've worked in. And I have never seen a proliferation of fees as what I have seen in this state, and that is a function of our unique environment of public finance in this state, particularly with respect to our property tax and sales tax limitations.
All right, I'll sit down now.
Urban renewal is the other money that we have now.
Well, that's right.
That's right. And that's the point.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item,
So you've got the sample motions on page 2 of the,
I have a comment to make. I don't know if it can be put through as a motion, but something has occurred to me. I don't know when to bring this up, but I have a piece I've written that I would like to share. I don't know if now is the time for it or if it's later.
of course.
Shall I go ahead and say?
Mhm.
Okay. One of the things that was occurring to me reading all this is that part of the object of all this is to provide other options for transportation in Dayton besides single occupancy motor vehicles, cars, here and there. There's talk about sidewalks. There's some technical specifications of what a sidewalk is. There's a specification here that says it needs to be ADA compliant. I'm proposing the idea that we need to go a little further than that. Because it isn't just people walking on their feet or people rolling with mobility devices that are using sidewalks. It's a wide variety of people. Students getting to school safely. People conducting small children, either carrying them, pushing them in strollers, walking along the street with them. So here's what I have. In an interest of inclusion, I propose that the 2025 Dayton, Oregon Transportation System Plan add a definition for the term sidewalk to go along with delineations of various types of streets. According to the Merriam-Webster website, a sidewalk is a usually paved walk for pedestrians at the side of the street. That's fairly intuitive. I'd like to add this concept to the TSP, and I don't know exactly how to do that, but it's an idea of looking for this to be a focus when we go about the business of deciding what we're going to do with a sidewalk. A sidewalk is a paved pathway to provide safe passage for a variety of pedestrians, such as those walking, rolling, being carried, or using wheeled or other mobility devices. And in the interest of not having to specify every single thing every single time, also references in the TSP that mention any pedestrian activity shall mean referring to all of them, or referring to them all unless there's a compelling reason in a given case to do otherwise. I don't know how to, if I need to put that through as a motion or.
Why don't you just admit your written comments there into the record, and include in a motion that those be, added to, I think, the definition section of the development code. Because that's where those terms are defined, like sidewalk, and your definition seems appropriate. The actual text of the plan. That I don't know if you're. So your wife actually made similar comments on including mobility devices in the plan, and I'm told that they were. That those amendments were added, but.
They're there, but I'm actually going a little further, that the sidewalks. Cater to a very population. They're the mode for safe routes to school. They are used by children who are old enough to be out on the street by themselves, by elderly people using walkers, by people who have issues that require them to use straight canes of some sort. We need to consider that. And again, what this means specifically, I don't know, but the idea of that this be part of the consideration when we're designing. these things.
So, in your motion, reference your written comments. What we can do is we can pass those on to the consultant team. Come back with some proposed language that would be available. 7 days ahead of the city council hearing. You can review it. When that language is added. And you can provide your testimony to city council on December 1st. As to whether or not the language is acceptable, or you can. Provide some feedback back at any time
Or you mentioned
during that 7 day period.
it would belong in
The
our
sidewalk,
development code,
the sidewalk definition can easily be added to the development code.
which is
That's-
not part of adopting TSP.
But there's development, there's implementing code changes in here, so we can add it to.
Okay.
That.
Is that
package.
is that two things then? Is it adding it to the development
The
code?
TSP language, I'm not sure how that. Would be addressed, or what is necessary what the necessary updates to the TSP. Are the necessary changes to. Get rid of the goal that you're looking at.
Wouldn't the TSP reference the definition of sidewalk as written in our development code, or updated development code?
So the development code, to the extent that the development code implements transportation policy. Flows from the policies of the TSP, and that's what's actually implemented, the TSP implements that, so. The sidewalk definition, when it goes into the development code, that's what's gonna implement that policy decision.
Mr. Vice Chair, could I ask a question?
Yeah, yes, of course.
So I just wanna have a little bit more clarity when we go back and flesh these ideas out for the December council meeting. Of what would be what do you see as the practical implications of this expanded understanding that you just articulated?
First of all, it acknowledges that there are a possibly broader variety of pedestrians that has been discussed. Thinking along the lines of that, in an area where the sidewalks are wide enough that they go all the way out to the street, that part of the stipulations is that you have, if you're gonna have tables or whatever, I mean, we kind of do this already, like out here on Ferry Street. Tables or chairs and the like, that they're closer to the street, and the actual area that people traverse is closer to the buildings. I'm thinking in terms of the idea that somebody who is conducting small children will appreciate that. Somebody who's rolling on a set of skates will appreciate that. If that's allowed in town, I'm not sure it is. But the notion being is that we consider sidewalks to be something that we need to have passable by a very large variety of different kinds of pedestrians. And that we aren't just talking about people walking or people using mobility devices. There are other populations as well that we need to consider. And this would also mean that how we set standards for what we're trying to do by way of keeping them up. Like, are we looking at the surfaces? Like I know that on the newer parts of the sidewalk, Kenny actually discovered this, I think, about the way of beveling the edges between the sections that make them easier to roll over for people who are on wheels. I suspect those are probably more difficult to trip over as well. So that's where I'm going with this, is that it's beyond just people walking and people using mobility devices. That's what I'm getting at. And in Dayton itself, I can't think of too many places where there would be an issue with grading, like, is this too much of an incline? Except possibly maybe down Ferry Street towards the water, but don't think as much as can be done about that, because that's what the terrain is. That's kind of where I'm going with this, is that a broader definition of who's using the sidewalks to encourage more people to use the sidewalks.
That helps, thank you.
Okay, so now I have a question about trying to put this into a motion. I'm gonna need to now, Dave, as to when it is that I do that and what exactly is that I need to do,
I can try to make the motion. I'll fudge my way through it.
okay,
There is a sample here in the comment.
Yeah.
okay, all right, good. Well, I think we'll get to that, so. We actually jumped over something here because as the public shall be invited to testify, but I believe we don't have any members of the public.
We do.
We need to acknowledge the fact that item 2 was covered, we had no members of the public. Staff shall be invited to comment on testimony, I think I just did that, did anyone else have any comments? Okay. Item 4, the public hearing may be continued to another hearing date to allow additional testimony, or it may be closed. I don't know how that decision is made.
Just close it.
So just close the
Just
hearing,
close the hearing.
close the hearing, pop the gavel.
Okay, this public hearing is now closed. Here we go.
And now we can just deliberate, you don't need to read from the script.
Okay,
Deliberate and then entertain a motion, whatever. The commission.
yeah, is there any deliberation on what's been presented to us?
Okay.
How about
And then,
on Zoom?
I
Anne
don't
Marie,
think
did
I
you
have
have
any
any-
comments.
Okay,
All looks good to me.
great. Let's see here.
So if there's no more deliberation, I think number 2 is the
Yep.
sample motion that you'd be working from.
Okay, let's try this. I move the planning commission adopt a revised staff report. That includes proposed language by acting chair Mackin regarding the definition of a sidewalk. For review, prior to it being presented to the city council in December. With the recommendation that city council approve the revised amendments.
Just, well, I'll make one thing to have all the i's dotted and t's crossed. I believe my title is vice chair as opposed to acting chair.
Vice Chair Mackin,
Yeah.
please correct.
and also before I second it, this also includes not just or maybe you said, it's the whole packet with the amendments that have been produced. I heard the amendments part, I didn't hear the rest of it, but maybe I just missed it.
Should I try it again?
Did I just miss it? I think you said it. I think we're good. We all understand what your motion is.
Yes.
With the recommendation of city council approve the revised amendments, and approve LA 2025-02.
Okay,
Okay, but you've made the motion. Do we have a second?
Thank you.
second, I'll
Rosie, for
second.
fixing that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 I,
I have to ask it. All opposed, say no. That's good. I heard 4 ayes. Somebody else said something. Who are you? All right then. Have that right as references to Mr. Who wrote it. Our public hearing. So we're now on to other business. I got that right? All right. Is there any other business to come before the planning commission this evening?
should we talk about the hotel?
Yeah, so that's my question.
Yeah, Michelle, let's discuss that, shall we?
It's been approved by the city staff, And now we're in we're in an appeal period that lasts for.
Correct.
Okay, so anybody can comment on it, and then what happens when that?
They've already commented on it, anybody can appeal
Appeal,
their, like,
okay. Like appeal.
the code. and standard 20.
So the appeal would be to you.
Okay,
So
Got it.
one thing I'd like to emphasize is that anybody on the planning commission, any individual city councilor can inform me that they would like to appeal this, and then it'll come before you.
It is,
Okay.
okay, it is individuals, not a
Correct.
body.
Right.
Yes, this was a compromise that came out from Councilor McGuire. When we made the changes to implement Senate Bill 1537. That placed certain limited procedural limitations on. The variety of application types identified as limited land use decisions that included site development review. And he wanted to have a mechanism to essentially call up the decision, to review a city staff decision. And call it up and have a public hearing. If there was a need to review the decision.
Jeremy, I'm gonna need that again, when you said something about the planning commissioners and or individual counselors. What can they do? I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
So you can inform me that you would like to appeal my decision. And then the approval of that application will be stayed pending a public hearing before the entire planning commission.
Oh, okay, I understand, thank you.
So my decision would be appealed to planning commission, and you would be the decision makers.
All right.
so if one of us appeals it, which side of the table are we sitting on during the meeting?
Hey, that's part of the democratic process. That's why it's in there, to make sure there's transparency. It wouldn't hurt my feelings one bit.
I don't know.
It's an unusual situation, we're just trying to operate within.
I understand the spirit of stuff.
To your question, I don't think it would be like an adversarial thing. It would be more like an individual planning commissioner thinking, this is a matter of public importance, and I would like my colleagues to have an opportunity to weigh in on this.
Got it.
So I think you would be right where you are.
But I also think you would only want to do that if you think that the staff decision is wrong.
Right. Which I don't necessarily,
Well,
I'm not
right.
saying either way,
I
I'm just
mean,
trying to know what the process was.
So it's site development review, it's not a housing application.
Right.
So there are discretionary criteria that apply to site development review. Different people can apply those criteria in different ways. And when we updated the design standards in the central business overlay, a lot of that discussion was specifically applied to that project.
Right.
And there are discretionary standards in those design standards as well.
Mhm.
So there's a lot, so there's definitely different ways to apply the approval criteria and the design standard in this particular case. Because it doesn't involve housing.
Okay, thank you.
And that's part of the reason why the process has extended as long as it has.
Right, and unfortunately, I missed the last.
Well, and
planning
the
commission meeting, so a little bit behind.
the first time around, there were variances and things that were not staff decisions, right?
Correct.
So they presumably altered their plans,
Yes.
so there's no more of that,
Right.
They removed the most controversial.
like the height.
They removed the height variances, yeah, and the large, access way, driveway in
Oh,
front of the building, between the building and the street. That was really the
Oh,
most.
okay,
okay, okay.
I missed that.
So if there's no appeals, then what?
It's approved.
Done.
It's done deal.
They can break ground.
So y'all read that very thoroughly. Let me know if you have any questions. Absolutely.
So if that does get appealed, it won't come before the planning commission till at least January, probably, right, just because of notice requirements and things.
And they have waived the 120 days. Um, It's been a long winding process and it's just got in the staff report.
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion on this matter? Is there any other business to come before the commission this evening? I'll take that as a no. We don't need a motion to adjourn, do we? We could just call it. Right, just call
Use your power.
it. Use my power.
Do it.
Yeah. It's 7:20 PM on November the 11th, 2025. This planning commission meeting is adjourned.
So I didn't want it on the record, but I think this is probably my last meeting. I agreed to be on until the end of my term, which is the end of this year. And unless there's something on the agenda, it's not gonna be the hotel, which is all I care about. As long as the hotel is after I'm off, that's good. That was what I was asking.
Can't persuade you to re-up again, Rob?
What, Henry?
We can't persuade you to sign on again, another term?
I think I don't live in Dayton anymore.
Advertising.
I moved out, I moved to McMinnville in May. And because we already had a vacancy, I thought it would be nice to, and I'm a nice guy, so it would be nice to stay on, but I only agreed to do it till the end of the term, which I think is this calendar year.
So now we're done.
That's probably appropriate since you don't.
Don't live here anymore. Yeah, the ordinance allows that to happen, but I think the spirit of that is somebody who lives near the city, and I don't really anymore.
But Rob, we thank you
Makes sense.
for your service to our community. You brought a lot of knowledge and expertise to the table, and it'll be sorry to see you go.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna miss you. Thank you so much.
Oh, with any luck, you'll find somebody really good to fill the seat.
Yeah, I wonder about. How we're doing on that, because now that's.
So we've already got one vacancy.
This is our second vacancy and. I mean, I joined the commission because I kind of got drafted. I moved to Dayton. Now you can be on the planning commission. So. Planning commission.
Y'all need to start twisting some arms. Seriously, if you know anybody that's interested, refer them to me. I would love to have coffee with somebody and convince them to be a part of this.
Okay, it's good to
Yeah.
know.
Give them my phone number.
Are there any other requirements for city limit, we have, like city council has their rules about city limits versus. In the zip code versus,
So we can have one person that's outside city limits. So we would have one spot left for that,
okay,
and then the other person would have to be within the
Within,
city.
okay.
limits.
Tina, who was on here for years,
Yes.
who's never lived in the city.
Yeah, he was the member who was outside.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, it's very good.
to do with.
Seriously, we're dealing with a lot of small city planning commissions.